I'd like to talk about lessons learned. Now, lessons learned is a very simple concept, but it's one that's actually very difficult to get right in practice. I talk with many organisations who are attempting lessons learned. They're attempting to learn lessons from the past to improve their practice in the future, but they're finding it hard. They're not satisfied with the way things are going. Somehow, the lessons learned system is not working. Now, I think that's because lessons learned is more complex than anybody really realises. It's not a simple process. It's quite a long process. It has some crucial steps and some crucial handovers of knowledge. And unless we understand the complete workflow end to end for lessons learned, we're going to make a mistake. We're going to leave out a crucial step somewhere. Now, we can think of lessons learned as containing three main steps. The first step is the identification of the lesson. The second is taking an action to fix the lesson. And the third is making sure that that action is notified out to people, that people realise that things have changed and that they need to work differently. Let me explain a little bit about what I mean. There's a big gap between a lesson identified and a lesson learned. A lesson identified is when you spot the potential for learning. Something's happened, something good or something bad, and you think the organisation can learn from this. But the lesson is not learned until action is taken and something changes as a result. Let me say that again. A lesson is not learned until something changes as a result. So identification, although it's the first step and the crucial step, is not the only step. However, let's look at step one. Let's look at lesson identification. This needs to be done well. It needs to be done routinely and not as an ad hoc reaction to things happening. It needs to be planned into your work process and your project process. You need somebody accountable for making sure that lessons are identified and lessons are identified well. You need a good lessons identification process. And this is almost certainly going to be a team process where you bring the team together and you have a discussion and a dialogue about what happened, what were the root causes, what have we learned, what do we need to change. You can use an after-action review format, you can use a retrospect format. There are a number of ways to do this, but it needs to be well facilitated and attention needs to be paid to the quality of the lesson. It needs to be a good lesson. I often say think of a lesson as something that you can teach. Not necessarily something you've learned, but definitely something you can teach to others. And to teach, it has to be a good quality lesson. So let's get our lesson identification right. Let's get it routine. Let's put in a process and accountability. Let's put in a technology for storing those lessons. And let's make sure there's quality control. But this is only the first step. Many organisations stop at this step, to be honest. They'll identify the lessons, they'll put them in the database and they'll think, job done. Job not done. Two more steps. The second step is to take the action related to the lesson. As I said earlier, a lesson isn't learned until action is taken. So the next step after identifying the lesson is to identify the action. 9 times out of 10, the action will be to either write or improve a process. Think about lesson. A lesson is generally something you've identified because you can find either a way to do things better or you found a new way to do things wrong. You found a mistake, so the process can be improved, or you find a better process, so the process can be improved. 9 times out of 10, the action will be to write or improve a process. The 10th time, the action is just to fix something, buy more equipment, reconfigure the equipment you've got, hire another person. But if we think about the action to update or write a process, then somebody needs to take accountability for that. And that will be the process owner or the process owners in your organisation, whoever they may be, the subject matter experts, the technical authorities, the community leaders. They need to take the learning that's coming from the business and use it to update the procedures, the processes, the standing instructions, the standard operating procedures, the job descriptions, whatever they are, so that change is made as a result of that lesson. And then, of course, those processes, procedures, instructions, job descriptions need to be stored somewhere in the company knowledge bank, if you like, but they need to be stored somewhere where they're accessible to the organisation. That's step number 2. That's taking action as a result of the lesson. But even that's not enough, because these beautiful updated procedures and standing instructions can sit in a library and maybe nobody knows they're there, nobody knows they've changed, nobody follows them. So we've got a third step. And the third step is to get these procedures, these standing instructions, these improved ways of working back out into the organisation. This may involve training. It may involve broadcasting the new lesson or the new updated procedure, rather. It may involve the community of practice in discussion about what's changed. There has to be a way of getting improved process, improved procedures back out into the organisation. Now, if you can do this effectively, then firstly, a lesson is identified. Secondly, a process is updated. Thirdly, the organisation follows the new process. Things have changed. What's changed, what's improved, is our way of working. And that way of working, as the lesson cycle continues through identification, action and broadcast, we're going to see continuous improvement of process and therefore continuous improvement of results. And that is the goal of lessons learnt. It's that continuous improvement. However, as I said, it's not straightforward. You have these 3 steps. The first step is taken by the business, the second by the process owners, the third to get it back into the business. So there's a continual handoff of lessons between the business and the process owner. Each of those 3 steps, you need accountable people, you need a defined process, and you need a supporting technology. People, process, technology behind each of those 3 steps. So you're beginning to end up with 9 components. And if any of those components are missing, your lessons learnt system won't work, or will work with minimal effectiveness and efficiency. That's why I think lessons learned are often disappointing, is because people haven't thought through this whole workflow and the supporting processes, people and technologies behind it. Now, if you do understand that and you do have those components in place, lessons learned will be a powerful driver for continuous performance improvement.